Countries that desire rapid economic growth usually exploit possibilities of several bilateral trade relations with other countries to increase exports and earn foreign exchange. The arrival of agricultural produce export from Nigeria to Mexico and its potential for enhanced trade relations between both countries is the main focus of this edition of Africa Weekly. We will also continue our series on the road to the 2023 presidential election in Africa's most populous democracy, Nigeria. And I am Charles Alpha, welcoming you to Africa Weekly. Now, Mexico and Nigeria have revived trade in some agricultural produce with the intention of capturing more commodities in the near future. What does this mean for Nigeria?
Nigeria and Mexico have had a long bilateral and trade understanding since 1979. Nigeria first established her embassy in Mexico in 1981. Since then, bilateral relations between the two countries have remained steady. As at 2021, the bilateral trade between Nigeria and Mexico stood at more than $3.1 million. Nigeria's major exports to Mexico are agricultural produce and products, oil and textile materials. Nigeria, on the other hand, import electronic equipment, cereals, and machineries. These importations stood at $7.5 million. Nigeria, as the Mexican authorities lifted ban on Nigerian hibiscus due to issues relating to quality.
We consider this hibiscus work plant the potential token of security of thousands of livelihoods that are meaningfully engaged in the hibiscus value chain. The beauty of the work plan we are about to consummate is that it has the potential to future-proof bilateral trade in hibiscus between Nigeria and Mexico against avoidable disruptions. It will stabilize commerce on the supply side, on the demand side, and it will incentivize investment in hibiscus in both countries.
Now is the Nigerian ambassador to Mexico, Ambassador Rafiu Adejare Bello. I want to say thank you very much for coming on Africa Weekly.
It is my pleasure to be with you on this program.
Okay.
And thank you for the opportunity for Nigerians to listen to those of us that are here in Mexico.
It's all right, good to have you. Now, to begin with, can you take us through the level of diplomatic and trade relations between Nigeria and Mexico?
I can tell you authoritatively that the relationship between the two countries, Nigeria and Mexico, is very cordial and very smooth. And it started 46 years back. That was in 1976. And since then, we broke the ties for quite years during the military, and we resumed again around 1980. And since then, it has been very smooth and warm.
Okay, are there challenges facing smooth trade? Smooth trade relations between Nigeria and Mexico? And how is your office helping in clearing these challenges?
I want to say that the bilateral trade relations between the two countries is not as expected. We want it to be in billions of dollars. But as of now, it is in hundreds of millions of dollars. And we are doing everything humanly possible within our reach to get the situation improved. Precisely on Friday, the 4th of this month, Nigerian agricultural quarantine services from Nigeria came to Mexico, led by Dr. Vincent Isegbe. And the agreement was signed with Seneca, the representative of the government of United Mexican States. We hope that with the signing of the agreement, the suspension of the importation of hibiscus flowers from Nigeria to Mexico 5 years ago in 2017 will now boost the trade relations. Before the suspension, it was put at over 600 million US dollars as the annual earnings for Nigeria on hibiscus flowers alone. We hope it will be taken to not less than 1.5 billion naira with the resumption and the the lifting of the ban on the importation of hibiscus flowers to Mexico. Part of what we have done to make sure that the situation gets improved is to make sure that after the signing of the agreement, the exporters from Nigeria came and we sat them down in our office here in the embassy with the Mexican importers. The two of them had to agree on some gray areas so that at the end of the day, there won't be any complaint again. And you can be sure that from January, the level at which we are taking the importation of hibiscus to will be very great. Because since I came 17 months ago, in the month of June last year, I was amazed to hear that hibiscus flowers that are coming to Mexico will go through America or China or Jamaica. They were calling it Jamaica flowers. And one will get annoyed with that because it's our product. I want to thank my colleague in Abuja, the Mexican ambassador to Nigeria, my dear friend Alfredo Miranda. Before he resumed in the month of May, he paid visits to me in my office and I got him abreasted of the development about the suspension of Nigeria from importing to Mexico. He promised to do something about it. I was happy to hear from Dr. Vincent Isegbe, the leader of the delegation that came here last week, to hear that he played a very helpful role. And that is why we were able to sign on Friday that bilateral agreement between the Nigerian agricultural quarantine services and the Seneca.
Okay.
Here in.
Okay. Now, hibiscus is one out of so many, farm produce right now that we
very correct.
We're leveraging on. But are there other areas in the agricultural sector, agricultural produce that you are also taking a look that you think can be of benefits to the two countries?
Oh, according to Dr. Vincent Isegbe, the leader of the team, who is the CG Controller General of Nigerian Agricultural Quarantine Services, he told me that there are other 28 products that we want to introduce to Mexico. Okay. Part of it is ginger, sesame seeds, and a lot more. According to him, not less than 28 of them. And we could exchange to get our agricultural situation improved in Nigeria. They have a lot of farm implements here that could be brought to Nigeria and that could help our farmers. What they do here is to make sure that farmers are assisted. Take, for instance, when the war broke out between Ukraine and Russia, what they are doing in Mexico now is for the government of Mexico through what they refer to as PEMES. It's like petrol importing that deals with petrol. To come to Nigeria, we introduced Dangote fertilizer that was commissioned recently to them. And they are making their findings to make sure that they come to Nigeria to import fertilizers. I can assure you that if that trade resumes, it's likely to be, Mexican government is likely to be the highest importer of Dangote fertilizer in Nigeria. And that will go a long way to assist our people, improve employment opportunity, and to make more money, more earnings, foreign earnings for that matter, for the country.
Okay. The Nigerian ambassador to Mexico sometime last year. What would you say has been the impact your office, has made on the activities of Nigerians over there?
When I resumed, I tried to find out, because there is no point for all of us from Nigeria to come here, sit down and be watching. I tried to find out that the essence of all of us coming here is to assist Nigerians that are here. And we have done a lot of things. One, we had a meeting with them.
Okay.
And we told them, we made them to realize that if they cannot be holding meetings, if they don't know themselves, that will be difficult for any of them that have problem to be assisted, and for the embassy to get involved in any of these problems of any Nigerian. With that, they saw reason with our position. And I can tell you that the NIDO, Nigeria in Diaspora Organization, has been established with their chairman, one Dr. Peter Lagbe.
Okay.
And I want to also say that any of them with problems, here, they have a law that is not flexible in nature. If you have any little quarrel with any lady, any woman, the moment you are arrested, you don't want to listen, you will be jailed. And till the end of your trial, you will not have bail. I'm happy to inform you that I have a dutiful Nigerian who is our consular officer that handles that. Is always in court. It is not our duty to be in court because we cannot defend them. But any of them that require the services of lawyers will find for them. And that officer I'm talking about, one Salisu, is always in court on every adjourned date to make sure that my office is briefed, so that our people will not be languishing in jail for nothing.
You begin to look at what has happened, between last week and now, the kind of relationship, the kind of embargoes that has been lifted, and the kind of achievement that Nigeria and Mexico, have struck or achieved in the last 1 week. It's something to really, really want to hold tight to. And if you now begin to look at, just this short time, you see what has been done, by your embassy and Mexico and Nigeria. Looking at Mexico and Nigeria, for instance, in the next 10 years, where do you foresee, this level of trade taking the two countries to?
Yes, that is why we are not resting on our horse to make sure that the situation we met on ground since last year gets improved. I can project for you conveniently that in the next 10 years that you quoted, we'll be talking in terms of not less than 10 billion bilateral trade that will happen between Nigeria and Mexico, because we can see the green lights, the lights at the end of the tunnel to improve the situation. And Mexicans too are now realizing that Africa and Nigeria in particular, with our population of over 200 million, and they also have their own population too, around 130 million people. So they know that we should come together, we should collaborate to improve what Nigerians can send to Mexico and what Mexico can send to Nigeria.
All right, Ambassador, thank you very much. That's Ambassador Bello Rafiu in Dejare talking to us there via Zoom from Mexico on the trade and bilateral relations between Nigeria. Thank you so much for your thoughts there on Africa Weekly.
It is a pleasure to be with you on NTA.
Thank you so much for your time here.
Thank you. God bless you.
All right. The ECOWAS Commission will, in the next 4 years, pursue actualization of the Regional Rice Offensive Plan aimed at reducing import dependency in member countries. The plan has implementation period of 2022 to 2025.
The Regional Rice Offensive Plan is one of the main components of ECOWAS 2050 strategic framework on food security. Already in motion, the plan is expected to support rice revolution in member countries, with Nigeria being the focal point. At the 32nd Ordinary Session of the Administration and Finance Committee meeting in Abuja, ECOWAS Commission President Omar Aliu Toure expressed optimism that the lessons learned from the Russian-Ukraine war will serve as impetus to quickly find local solutions to food supply challenges in the sub-region.
The budget presented to you for consideration is on a midterm expenditure framework. It is a 3-year budget estimate that complies with your earlier recommendation. As this is the first attempt, we will count on your guidance for improvement.
Members of the Administration and Finance Committee of ECOWAS will use the session to evaluate the impact of the 2022 budget and make adjustments and recommendations to the various institutions of the Commission on the finance and resource management options ahead of the 2023 budget of the Commission.
Campaigns and preparations for Nigeria's 2023 general elections are intensifying. What are the parameters to guaranteeing free and peaceful elections that will consolidate the country's position as a leading light in democracy in Africa? The national chairman of Inter-Party Advisory Council, Sani Yabagi, who is also the presidential candidate of the Action Democratic Party, ADP, gives us an insight in this excerpt.
We have to give kudos to Mr. President by signing the Electoral Law 2022 into law. And by his pronouncements, at every given opportunity, within or outside the country, he tells Nigerians, he tells everybody in the international community that he has that resolution that he's going to bequeath, a credible, reliable, free, all-inclusive elections, before he departs, the scene. So that was the electoral law that he has put in place with his assurance that he's going to. It doesn't really bother him whoever wins. It could be from any political party. That's what he has been saying. So that kind of gives the electoral law, some commanding, element, in the sense that when you know that, okay, Mr. President, has strongly, is strongly behind, law. And that's why our party, Action Democratic Party, our manifesto is based on the rule of law. We are going to govern by the rule of law. We are going to govern in a sense that everybody will equal before the law. Our party's my manifesto as the president of this country, by the grace of God, is that we are going to run a government that will be based on rule of law. Because when you go by rule of law, automatically you have taken care of everything that we are battling with today. Is it insecurity? Is it poverty? Is it corruption or any other thing that we are battling with today? Is it growing of the economy? That narrative we are, on the continent of Africa, and the whole world knows that the continent of Africa, 30% of the resources are deposited in the continent of Africa, of the world resources I'm talking about. So we are the next frontier for development, and Nigeria is it because Nigeria has all these things I'm talking about. So this is why we believe that God helping this country, Nigerians vote for Engineer Wawa Sani as next president. Believe you me, we will have what you call a great leap forward in terms of our economic progress, and we'll eliminate most of these things that are happening, to us. How can you be losing your doctors? How can you be losing your lecturers? It takes how many years to train any of those things, those specialists? So we can't afford this. We have to reverse the trend as quickly as we can, and we have the knowledge. We know how to do it.
Nigeria and other African countries have forged a common ground to negotiate for a just transition, loss and damage, climate finance, food security, and biodiversity conversation as negotiations open at COP27 in Egypt.
Meeting here under the auspices of the African Ministers Conference on Environment. This is the time to fine-tune the African priorities. And top on the agenda for African continent is the issue of loss and damage, where the countries involved are insisting that because Africa contributes the least to climate change, it should be considered for financing.
We look forward to the unity of the continent and for honorable ministers to come and speak with one voice for that COP, so that all the needs and the demands for our children and future generation would be met.
Other issues considered by ministers at the AMCEN pre-negotiation consultative meeting are those of adaptation finance and ensuring that the ramp-up supports, leveraging promises and pledges made in the past to ensure that those are fulfilled at the end of the conference.
We understand that Africa is getting around 3% from the global basket when it comes to the finance. Now the target is we want to at least spread our arms to see whether we can reach up to 10%. Yet still it's a small one compared to what we are emitting and what we are being exposed to when it comes to the loss and damage.
Nigeria is aligning with the decisions and priorities of the African group of negotiators, pushing and making a case for the peculiar concerns of the country in the discussion on climate change.
To ensure that those commitments are firmly, highlighted, and not only highlighted, but scaled up, towards implementation. So Africa is putting pressure to these donors and partners to ensure that these commitments are firm and implementable.
And that's our package this week on Africa Weekly. Many thanks for being part of it. I am Charles Alpha. Thanks for watching.